The crumpled work order hit Maya right in the chest. Rainwater dripped from the thick paper. It instantly smeared the blue ink. Being late because of a hurricane is still being late. Vance spat. He didn't even look up from his tablet. He didn't care that Maya had just spent 2 hours hanging from a safety harness 50 feet in the air. She had been securing the loose housing on turbine number 9, while 50-mile-per-hour winds tried to tear her off the tower. "Get out of my sight," Vance ordered. "And don't even dream about seeing a single dime of this month's paycheck." Maya stood there shivering, in her soaked uniform. The cold was seeping deep into her bones. She wiped a mixture of freezing rain and grease from her tired eyes. She desperately wanted to throw her hard hat right at his smug face, but she couldn't. She thought about the bright pink eviction notice sitting on her kitchen counter back home. She thought about her 5-year-old daughter. Lily was currently sitting in their freezing apartment. She was wearing 2 sweaters and waiting for her mom to bring home food. Maya swallowed her pride. "Hello, everyone. Storms can shake steel turbines, but they should never extinguish the quiet fire of human compassion. If you believe in standing up for what is right, let your voice be heard today. Drop a comment below and write, 'I believe warm light will always pierce through the cold darkness of greed.' Make sure to subscribe to the channel to join our community." Let's get back to the story. Over by the station entrance, a middle-aged man stood quietly, in a soaked canvas jacket. He was holding a little girl, close to his chest. He was trying to shield her from the drafts coming through the broken door. They looked completely out of place. Nobody paid any attention to the homeless guy who had wandered in to escape the deadly storm. But the man wasn't just staring at the floor. Arthur watched the station manager turn his back on the shivering female engineer. He noted the way Maya slowly bent down. She carefully picked up the torn pieces of her work order from the muddy floor. She didn't scream. She didn't curse or throw a tantrum. She just tucked the wet paper into her pocket. She took a deep breath and walked straight to the main control panel. She needed this job too much to let her ego get in the way. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded animal. It rattled the reinforced glass of the control tower with terrifying force. The regional power grid was failing fast. Red warning lights began to flash across the massive monitors. The harsh crimson glow painted Maya's pale and exhausted face. "Turbine 9 is redlining," she said. Her voice was tight, but completely professional. "The main substation feeding the lower valley is dropping voltage rapidly. If we don't bleed off some pressure, the transformer is going to blow." Vance finally looked up from his tablet. He slammed his half-empty coffee mug onto the expensive console. "Cut them off," he said casually. Maya froze. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "What did you just say?" she asked. She was hoping she had misheard him. "I said cut the lower valley grid entirely. Reroute all of their remaining power up to the Heights." The Heights was the exclusive gated community situated on the North Hill. It was where Vance, the corporate board members, and the city's elite lived in massive mansions. The lower valley was a sprawling district of trailer parks and low-income apartment complexes. Thousands of working-class families lived down there. "If we cut their heat right now, people will freeze to death tonight," Maya pleaded. "The temperatures are dropping to historic lows. There are elderly people and infants down there." Vance walked over and leaned in close to her. He smelled of expensive cologne and stale coffee. "Those people down there do not pay the premium tier rates. The residents in the Heights pay top dollar to ensure uninterrupted service. This is a business, not a charity. Do your job right now, Maya, or I will have security throw you out into the snow." Maya looked back at the flashing monitors. Her own apartment was down in the lower valley. Her little girl was down there right now. She was wrapped in cheap blankets, waiting for the electric heater to kick back on. Maya knew exactly what would happen if the temperature inside those poorly insulated homes dropped below freezing. She couldn't just follow his orders. She couldn't let innocent people die so that billionaires could keep their driveway heaters running. For the past 6 months, Maya had been secretly coding a micro-routing algorithm in her spare time. It was a highly advanced piece of software, designed to balance grid loads dynamically. It worked by borrowing fractional amounts of power from idle sectors and redistributing it to failing zones. She called it the bio-algorithm because it adapted and healed the network, like a living organism. It was brilliant, but it was also completely unauthorized and untested on a live grid. If she deployed it and it crashed the central system, she wouldn't just be fired on the spot. Vance would make sure she went to federal prison for corporate sabotage. She knew the security guards were stationed just outside the glass doors. Vance had his hand hovering over the emergency override button. The storm outside seemed to answer the tension in the room. A massive crack of thunder shook the floorboards. The lights in the control room flickered violently. Maya knew she had less than 60 seconds before the Lower Valley substation suffered a catastrophic meltdown. Once that transformer blew, those people would be without power for weeks. She thought about the promises she made to her daughter. She had promised Lily that things would get better. She had promised that she would always protect her. Protecting her meant keeping the heat on tonight, no matter the cost. Vance snapped his fingers in front of her face. I am losing my patience. Maya, initiate the bypass protocol immediately, or you are done in this industry forever. Maya's hands stopped trembling. She closed her eyes. For a fraction of a second, she looked over her shoulder. Her heart was pounding in her chest. Her eyes briefly met the gaze of the homeless man standing by the door. He gave her a slow and barely visible nod. It was a strange, silent moment of connection that gave her an unexpected surge of courage. Standing between the lives of thousands of poor families and a ruthless corporate order, Maya had to make a choice. Arthur watched her take a deep breath. If you support her courage, leave a comment right now. Right. I believe warm light will always pierce through the cold darkness of greed. Do it, Maya. Now. Vance screamed. His voice was completely unhinged. The alarms were deafening. The control room smelled like burning ozone and stale sweat. Maya didn't hit the manual bypass switch. Instead, her freezing fingers danced across the secondary terminal keyboard. She pulled up a hidden directory she had buried deep in the server architecture months ago. File name: Biogrid Protocol. What are you typing? Vance demanded, stepping toward her with a raised fist. I'm saving everyone, Maya whispered to herself. She hit execute. The massive screens flashed violently. For 3 agonizing seconds, the system hesitated. Vance lunged forward. He grabbed Maya by the shoulder and threw her away from the console. But it was too late. The command had already been sent. The blaring siren suddenly stopped. The harsh red warning lights blinked off one by one. They were slowly replaced by a steady, calming green glow. The massive transformer outside stopped its terrifying death rattle. Instead, it began to hum a deep, stable note. What did you just do? Vance demanded. His face turned completely pale as he looked at the stable power readings. I overrode your command, Maya said softly. She rubbed her bruised shoulder, but stood tall. I deployed a micro-routing algorithm. It is borrowing 3% of the power from the Heights' idle heating systems and feeding it directly to the Lower Valley. Both grids are stable. Nobody freezes tonight. Nobody loses power. Vance looked at the monitors in absolute disbelief. Then, his shock turned into pure, unfiltered, venomous rage. Security, he bellowed at the top of his lungs. 2 large guards in heavy tactical gear rushed into the control room, hands on their weapons. Arrest this woman right now. Vance pointed a shaking finger at Maya. She just committed corporate cyber-sabotage. Hold her here until the federal police arrive. I am going to make sure you never see your daughter again, Maya. You will rot in a federal cell. Maya's heart completely sank into her stomach. The adrenaline faded, leaving only cold terror. She had saved her daughter. She had saved thousands of innocent families. But Vance was right. She had just destroyed her own life. One of the guards pulled out a pair of steel handcuffs and walked toward her. "Let her go." A quiet, commanding voice echoed from the doorway. Everyone turned around in surprise. The homeless man was standing there. He gently set his little girl down on a safe chair in the corner. Then, he slowly took off his soaked, filthy canvas jacket. Underneath the rags, he was wearing a perfectly tailored, incredibly expensive charcoal suit. Vance squinted, trying to make sense of the absurd scene. "Who the hell are you? How did a filthy beggar get in here?" The man didn't answer right away. He walked slowly toward the main console. His footsteps echoed in the quiet room. He carried an aura of absolute, terrifying authority that made the security guards instinctively step back. "My name is Arthur," the man said softly. Vance's eyes widened in sheer, absolute terror. The color completely drained from his smug, arrogant face. His knees actually began to shake. Mr. Sterling," Vance stammered, his voice cracking like a terrified child. "Arthur Sterling, the billionaire founder and CEO of Sterling Clean Energy. The man who owned every single turbine, solar panel, and power grid in the entire state. I have been conducting a quiet, undercover audit of my regional stations this week." "Vance," Arthur said. His voice was incredibly calm, but it carried the chilling weight of a blizzard. "I noticed some severe discrepancies in the maintenance budgets you submitted. I wanted to see exactly how you were running things down here." Arthur looked down at the muddy floor. He looked at the torn pieces of Maya's work order, still sticking out of her pocket. "I expected to find financial mismanagement," Arthur continued. "But I never expected to find such absolute moral bankruptcy." Vance tried to speak. He tried to formulate a pathetic excuse. "Sir, you have to understand. I was just following standard operating procedure to protect the premium grid. You were willing to let infants freeze to death to save a few dollars on a transformer." Arthur interrupted, his voice finally raising to a roar. "You are not just fired, Vance. My elite legal team will be going through every single expense report you have filed for the past 5 years. If you stole a single dime from this company, I will personally see to it that you share a prison cell with the worst people imaginable." Arthur didn't even look at him anymore. "Guards, escort this man off my property immediately. He is trespassing." The security guards didn't hesitate for a single second. They grabbed Vance by the arms and dragged him out of the control room. He was begging, crying, and apologizing loudly, but nobody listened. The heavy steel door slammed shut, cutting off his pathetic screams. Arthur turned his attention to Maya. She was still standing there, completely stunned, her hands shaking. "A bioalgorithm?" Arthur asked gently, looking at the glowing green monitors. "You wrote a dynamic load balancing script entirely in your spare time?" Maya nodded slowly, wiping away a tear. "Yes, sir. I have been testing it on simulators for months. It works by treating the grid like a living organism." Arthur smiled. It was a warm, genuine, and deeply respectful smile. "It is absolutely brilliant," he said. "You risked your entire career, your freedom, and your livelihood to save people you don't even know. The world needs more people with your immense heart, Maya, and my company desperately needs a new chief technology officer, starting tomorrow. You are in charge of this entire facility." Maya dropped to her knees, overwhelmed with emotion. The crushing weight of her debts, her fears, and her struggles vanished in an instant. When good people are finally rewarded, it restores our faith in humanity. If this beautiful moment made you smile, drop a comment right now. Right. I believe warm light will always pierce through the cold darkness of greed. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss these incredible stories. Let's see how Maya's life changed. 3 months later, the bitter winter storms had finally passed. Spring had brought a beautiful, warm light to the valley. Maya wasn't living in that freezing, cramped apartment anymore. She and her daughter Lily had moved into a beautiful, spacious home with a massive green backyard. Maya was now managing the entire Western Seaboard's energy grid from a corner office. She had implemented her bio-algorithm across all stations, making winter blackouts a thing of the past. One sunny afternoon, she was standing at the base of turbine number 9. It was spinning gracefully against a perfectly clear blue sky. A sleek, black limousine pulled up on the access road. Arthur stepped out. He wasn't there for an audit this time. He walked over to Maya, holding a small velvet box in his hand. Over the past 3 months, their professional respect had blossomed into a deep, unbreakable bond. They stood side by side, looking up at the massive blades catching the sunlight. "You changed everything, Maya," Arthur said softly, getting down on one knee right there in the grass. "Not just the company. You changed my life." Maya smiled, tears of pure joy streaming down her face. "We just needed a little bit of light," she whispered, pulling him up for a hug. Those who sow warmth in the middle of a bitter storm will always reap the brightest sunshine of destiny. Strong parents who plant seeds of love and stand up for what is right will always harvest miracles. Thank you for watching this incredible journey. Before you go, leave one final comment below. Write, "I believe warm light will always pierce through the cold darkness of greed." Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next video.